Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, so hit that subscribe button to join the show. We get to talk to pretty amazing people, and right now there's a two-part documentary out on HBO called Agents of Chaos, which chronicles Russian interference into the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and we are joined by producer and co-director of Part 2, Javier Botero. Javier, thank you so much for being here with us. Okay, we're going to check on the audio right now. We are live, so sometimes that happens. Javier, can you hear me right now?
No problem. I can hear you fine. Yeah, you're great.
Oh, okay, great. All right, well, starting off here, just talking about this documentary, perfect time for this to come out, obviously, but what a huge piece of work this is. And I wonder if you could just kind of walk us through the origins of this, how you got involved with it, and part of that, I guess, the origination of the creation of this.
Yeah. So I started working on this in early 2017. I'd worked on a few films about cybersecurity, about cyber warfare. I'd worked on a film about the Stuxnet virus called 0 Days, and on a film about WikiLeaks. With both of these were with Alex Gibney, who is the director of Agents of Chaos, our new film. He started working on the topic of Russian interference shortly after Trump's inauguration in January 2017. He was approached by this sort of mysterious source who claimed he had information about what had happened in 2017 and about Trump's relationship with the Kremlin. And so Alex went out, he did this interview. It turned out to be with Glenn Simpson, a former journalist who was involved in the creation of what's become known as the Steele dossier, the packet of information put together by this ex-British spy. And I was pulled in shortly after that. We sort of joined efforts with Lowell Bergman, the legendary journalist and documentarian. And we were working on it for the last 3.5 years since that time, trying to make sense of this massive, crazy story. And this is the product of those efforts.
Well, I think that's something for all of us too that kind of agree with that. It's just such a massive, crazy story because so many parts of it seem like it's something out of a James Bond movie at some point. But I mean, really, these are things that went on with this. And talking about the research for it, I know in particular that there was a good portion of this that went to Russia to take a look at some of these troll farms. Can you tell us about that and what it was like and what it took to actually get access to something like that?
Yeah, so the troll farms are a significant part of the film, and from the beginning we were trying to sort out how do we understand this interference conceptually, and we ended up in a place where we had these sort of three prongs of interference that we profile in the film. One of them is this collusion narrative that we're all so familiar with. One of it was the hacking. And one of it was the trolling that was done online, the social media disinformation. And all roads on that in 2016 seemed to lead back to this organization in St. Petersburg, Russia, the Internet Research Agency, the troll factory. So early on, we were looking at that. We were trying to figure out how do we figure out what the real story is there and get through this massive disinformation about the place itself. It was not just that this place was creating this haze around the election. It actually created a haze around Russian interference too later on, and a lot of other voices joined in to try to make it seem like to make it hard to understand what this troll factory was. So we spent a lot of time in Russia. I spent over the course of 3 years, I probably ended up spending 4 or 5 months there. But we worked with a team of journalists on the ground as well, Russian investigative journalists who did incredible work, and they knew this place already. One of the things that we discovered getting into it was that Russian journalists had done pretty fantastic work already in piercing this troll factory, and some of that had made its way to the U.S. too, but obviously not broadly enough. Obviously, the government hadn't taken it seriously enough. and we didn't take the warnings that we had ahead of time. But yeah, I mean, it came down to working with great people in Russia generally, is to answer your question.
Well, you mentioned that, whether we took the warnings enough and everything there and being prepared for that. Looking at it, I've got a few more questions for you, but really right now, looking at where we're at ahead of this election, which is now less than, what, I don't know, 5-6 weeks away, almost. It seems crazy it's that soon. Are we prepared now? Have social media platforms done enough to prepare? Are they doing enough? And where do you think we're at with what went on before compared to now?
Yeah. So the question is I mean, I think it's a great question, and the question is what we mean by we. Are we thinking, has the government done enough? Have social media companies done enough? Media organizations? And for me, my immediate answer is no, and not because those entities haven't taken this seriously over the last 3 years. Some of them haven't, some of them have. And to varying degrees, I think, we see Facebook taking down troll networks, several in the last month, a few connected to the Russian government, and to actors in 2016. Department of Homeland Security, other parts of the intelligence community, they've been doing work on this, obviously not with a lot of support from the White House, but there are a lot of people who have been trying to do things to secure the elections on the state level. Plenty of hard work has gone into trying to make sure the systems are secure. I don't think quite enough has been done because there hasn't been that high level of support for it from the federal government. You have a White House that wants to deny that there was interference at all in 2016. So how can we get the country around this really hard task of protecting ourselves? But I think the place where we've ended up weakest is that disinformation is the biggest challenge. It's the cheapest attack, and it's the hardest one to know how to deal with. It's the one that I think we're most vulnerable to because of our highly polarized political system right now. And I don't think that's, the social media companies can only do so much to protect us from it. The government, I think, can do little to protect us from it. They have a First Amendment problem there, in that we have these rights that make it very hard for the government to step in. Thankfully, they can't step in and just shut down speech, right? So the responsibility is ours. And I think that, in the last 4 years, we have done little to prepare ourselves for the notion of, say, a sham campaign to claim that election results are delegitimate, something we profile in the film, and that the Russian government was prepared to do in 2016, was prepared to release fake information showing, a fake rigged election by Hillary Clinton, assuming that Hillary Clinton was going to win. And today, it was a weapon that was prepared and was never used. It was a potent one. And today we're even more vulnerable to it. And frankly, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a reprise of that waiting to happen, day after the election, evidence of Joe Biden rigging the election if he were to win, right? Or worse, it's a close election. Nobody knows who wins. It just seems sort of murky. And we're stuck in this place where no one knows if they can trust the election or not. I mean, I don't know that we've done much to fight against that in 4 years' time.
That's, I guess I wish I could say I'm surprised by that, but it does kind of make sense that something like that was planned already and just didn't roll out. Talking about, where we're at right now, and I want to make sure that everybody knows too to go watch this Agents of Chaos. What is one thing that you think people can do? Because you mentioned social media can only do so much, government can only do so much. As just a citizen, as somebody who's online, what is one thing that ordinary people can do to help combat this kind of disinformation?
Yeah, it's a hard challenge, I think, even for individuals, because it comes down to our habits and our behaviors and our mental habits. It comes down to skepticism. It comes down to thinking twice when you see something online, and thinking twice about when who you're talking with. Those are really hard things for us to do. We see information that we want to agree with, and sure, maybe it's a little aggressive, maybe it's a little extreme, but it confirms our biases, and so we want to agree with it. And that these little pieces of disinformation are taking us off in different directions where we can kind of stand and then go to war with other people in our country were being polarized even more than we already were. That was the goal of a lot of the disinformation. It's still the goal of a lot of the disinformation. We show in the film that the disinformation wasn't just on one side. It wasn't just, say, towards the right. It was towards the left. It was trying to polarize people and create chaos. And as individuals, we just have to approach what we see online, especially on social media, with a lot of skepticism. And we should take heart in that. I think if we can do that as a society, it can really improve things. There are studies that show in other countries that have dealt with this problem before we did. When people can learn to be more skeptical than they were before about what they see online, and that can have positive effects for the accuracy of what gets shared online, and for the amount of truth in an online conversation. You can kind of push the trolls to the margins. But we just haven't seen. I don't think we've even taken the first steps towards that here, unfortunately.
Well, certainly watching something like Agents of Chaos and getting an understanding of what happened in 2016 is a great way to educate yourself. For everybody out there, two different parts of that. It's on HBO, a wonderful documentary, and illuminating for a lot of different reasons on that. I think it's really important leading up to this that we educate ourselves, especially on those things that happen. Javier, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you taking some time. Congratulations on this and all the work that you do. It's important. We appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live.
Please, thank you for having me. I appreciate you talking about this topic.